Now I'd like to turn to educational opportunities between the ages of 16 and 18. There are various choices open to pupils of this age. The first thing to decide is whether to start work or to continue studying full-time. Of course, starting work means going straight into employment, although young people aged between 16 and 18 will still need either to study part-time, as well as doing their job, or join an apprenticeship or traineeship scheme. For those who want to continue studying full-time, there are two paths, academic and vocational. Academic qualifications, mainly advanced level exams, known as A-levels, are taken by students aiming for university study. Vocational qualifications, such as those offered by the Business and Technology Education Council, or BTEC for short, prepare pupils for a specific profession, such as engineering or computing. Most of those who wish to continue academic studies will go to the sixth form in their school or a specialist sixth form college. Alternatively, they can study A-levels at a further education college, also known as an FE college. Either of these routes will take students to university. On the other hand, those who wish to study a vocational qualification will typically go to an FE college and, after qualifying, will be ready for employment. There are other options for those who want to start work at 16. Since 2015, young people between the ages of 16 and 18 must continue to learn in a specified learning environment, in addition to working for an employer. The first option is to work for an employer and study part-time for a vocational qualification, such as a National Vocational Qualification, or NVQ for short. The second is to apply for an apprenticeship or traineeship. With apprenticeships, young people get to work with experienced staff and gain job-related skills. They earn a wage, although this is typically less than a regular employee, and get to continue studying part-time, usually 1 day a week. They study towards a qualification related to the job they are doing, and their apprenticeship can last anywhere between 1 and 4 years. Almost always they are offered a permanent job by the same employer at the end of their apprenticeship.
So, Amanda, you want me to help you with your application. Let's have a look at the UCAS website. Do you know what UCAS stands for, by the way? It's the University and Colleges Admissions Service. Have you set up an account with them yet?
Yes, I did it last week, but I haven't completed my application. One thing I need to know is how many universities I can apply to.
Well, first of all, you need to see how many offer the course you want. Remember, you'll want to choose the universities which have the best reputation, but you need to have some kind of backup in case you don't get into your first choice. What are you studying?
I'm doing A-levels in biology, chemistry and psychology, so I'm thinking of taking biochemistry.
Okay. Well, there are 7 good choices I could give you. Apart from Oxford and Cambridge, Imperial College in London is very good. And York is also a good possibility and easier to get into.
Okay. I don't think I'll get into Oxford or Cambridge, so I can include York and Imperial College.
Okay. I think you should go for those 2, plus 3 others, because the maximum number that you can put on your application is 5. How about Durham, Sheffield and Exeter?
Okay, I'll look at those. Another thing I'm not sure about is how to make a good assessment of myself and my skills and abilities. I've always found that difficult.
You mean your personal statement? Well, just be honest. I can help you phrase it so that it reads well, but you need to note down what you want to include. If you can do that by Friday, we can write it up together.
That's great, thanks.
Well, that's what I'm here for, to give you the advice that you need. After you've completed your application, I can add the reference and your predicted grades before sending it to UCAS.
Great. After we send it in, what happens next?
Well, UCAS processes your application and sends it on to each university that you've chosen. Then the universities assess it and decide whether to make you an offer. Remember that your predicted grades are only provisional, which means they're not confirmed until you get your actual results, so you need to pass the exams to actually get those grades. Usually any offer from a university will be a conditional offer. That means they can't give you a definite offer because it depends on your final grades. Then, when your exam results come through, they get sent to the school here and the universities.
Do I have to contact the universities to ask them about my application?
No, they'll contact UCAS about their offer. If you meet the predicted grades, they'll usually confirm the original offer, but if not, they don't tend to renew it or change it.
Oh, I hope that doesn't happen. But if it does, what can I do?
Well, if you don't get a place at any of your chosen universities, you can take a year off and try reapplying next year. Alternatively, you can try to get a place through clearing. This is a way universities fill remaining places on their courses, and it's a second chance for students to get into another university if they didn't succeed with any of their chosen ones. It's a sort of safety net, but I hope it doesn't come to that.
Well, thanks for your help. I'll complete my application and then come and see you on Friday.
Glad to help, Amanda. See you then.
Hi, Terry. Come in. What can I do for you?
Hi, Dr. Harris. Well, I just wanted to check on some information about the course, as it's all new to me.
Of course. What do you need to know?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure exactly what a seminar is for. We never had them at school. I know it's to discuss things together, but is it more than that?
Well, yes, you're right. It is really. You see, at university we typically have lectures, with about 100 or 200 students in the lecture theatre together. It's a one-way form of learning. The lecturer sets out the topic and discusses it, and you take notes. Then you need to review your notes following the lecture and also do some extra reading.
Oh, and where does the seminar fit in?
It could come at any time once you've had some time to think about the lecture. When you attend the seminar, you should have some of your own ideas to discuss with the other students, usually up to 10 of you. It allows you to discuss the topic, exchange ideas, and prepare for your assignments.
Okay, thanks. And what about tutorials? Are they like seminars?
Well, usually we try to space them out over the term so that we can have a chance to check on your progress and how well you're doing with your assignments. It often depends on when your tutor is available, and at times that might mean you have 3 weeks between tutorials. Normally, every term you should have 1 at the beginning, then usually another 4 spaced out depending on your program, and 1 before the holiday. So that works out at about 1 every 2 weeks.
Right. And what about assessment? How many exams do we have to do?
Well, that varies from course to course, but generally we focus on continuous assessment more than exams, though exams are, of course, very important too. We tend to assess you over the first 2 years through your assignments, which is over half of your overall assessment, usually 60%. And then most of your exams will come in the final year.
Okay, I'm happy with that. I get really nervous before exams. And talking about assignments, how long should they be?
On all undergraduate courses, students tend to write about 3,000 words or so, but it varies depending on the question. However, there's a minimum of 2,000, and while there's no upper limit, you should be careful that you don't write too much, as a lot of that might not be relevant to the question.
So I should aim for between 2,000 and 3,000 as a rule. There's one last thing I wanted to check about assignments, and that's references. How many do we need generally?
Well, as your course is international finance, you have to use banking, finance and news sources, as well as academic sources. Ideally, you should have around 10 references for each assignment to show that you've read widely. But we expect a minimum of 5 sources, which are academic journals and books. From the other sources, we'd generally expect 3 to be used.
OK, thank you, Dr. Harris. That's cleared up a lot of things for me.
Glad to be of help, Terry. See you next week.
While fracking is being used around the world, we've seen that there are serious concerns about it. What's clear is that fracking isn't the answer to the growing worldwide need for energy as countries increase their consumption. Already, the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has reached 400 parts per million. This may not seem very high, but we have to remember that 200 years ago, the level was around 280 parts per million, so it's increased by over a third since then. As a result, it's estimated that global temperatures have already increased by almost 1 degree Celsius. This increase changes the climate and affects the weather in many parts of the world. Many places, such as Northwest Europe, are expected to become warmer and wetter, and we've seen winter storms becoming worse in this region. Other places, such as sub-Saharan Africa, are expected to become hotter and drier, with deserts growing in area and seriously affecting farmland. Ice in the polar regions will melt and sea levels will rise, which will put coastal cities in greater danger of flooding. Clearly, we need to reduce and eventually stop using non-renewable resources like coal, oil, and gas. It may well be true that fracking can slow down global warming for a while and allow us to develop better renewable resources. However, these resources, like wind, wave, and solar power, are currently far more expensive to develop than shale gas production. On top of that, they take a long time to develop and start paying for themselves. Consumers have to pay higher bills to help the development of cleaner sources, and energy companies don't want to lose customers by asking them to pay more. Consequently, it's important for international organizations like the United Nations and national governments to support the development of renewable resources. The problem here, of course, is that governments usually think of short-term answers to energy problems and not longer-term ones. They're afraid that if they reduce the production and use of gas and oil, their economies will do worse than other economies, so they don't want to take action to increase the use of renewable sources. As I mentioned earlier, there are many people in different countries like Canada, the UK, and France who don't support fracking, especially if it's going to take place near where they live. Environmental groups also oppose fracking, not just because they want to protect people living in areas where fracking is planned, but also because they see fracking as part of the old way of doing things, like burning coal, oil, and gas, and increasing global warming. They want to see continued action and are trying to persuade governments to develop wind, wave, and solar power, as well as other renewable forms of energy, to fight global warming and ensure the supply of energy in the future. Certainly, coal, oil, and gas will run out one day, and if we haven't developed other forms of renewable energy, we'll then have serious problems with supplying energy to the growing world population, and the problems of fracking will seem relatively unimportant.